I have heard more times that I can count. I'm just not a good test taker. And every time I smile because I know the truth behind that statement. It's not that you cannot do it. It's that no one ever taught you how to do it, how your brain learns, how it stores information, and how it gets overwhelmed, and how it can adapt, whether you're balancing work or family or your inner critic. Here's the truth. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to memorize every word. And you certainly don't need to struggle alone. What you need is to understand how your brain actually works and how to use that science to your advantage. So that's what today's webinar is all about. Train your brain to pass science-backed strategies for HR exam success. Welcome, everyone. Whether you're joining us from maybe an exciting, vibrant city and state, or maybe from somewhere with the quiet charm of the South, like I am here in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Maybe you are joining us with your first, second, or maybe third cup of coffee. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited that we are having this conversation. So, Anelka Lejarza, I have spent the last 30 years living and breathing human resources. Not enough years, but I said 30 years, but that's not enough for me because I am planning to eventually be able to say that I have been in HR for 50 years. I already got 30. What's 20 more? And I'm going to be able to obtain the World Guinness record of the first HR professional with 50 years. Oh, that is correct. I am the founder of HRTrainingClasses.com and also HRDevelop.com and Lejarza Workforce Solution. I have all the major certifications, but more importantly, I have helped thousands of HR professionals just like you to pass this monsters exam. Today, I'm not just here as a trainer. I'm here as someone who's walked the road, felt the pressure, and figured out how to turn that stress into success. This is not going to be your typical study harder webinar. This is about working smarter with your brain as your study partner. So grab your pen, clear your distractions, and get ready. Because over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to train your brain to pass any HR certification exams that you're working toward. Now, let's dive in. But before we do that, I want to clarify that I am not an employment law attorney, even though I always wanted to be one. Any recommendations or insights that I provide are based on my professional knowledge and my experience, and they reflect what I will do in a similar situation. However, if you require legal advice, I strongly recommend consulting with a qualified employment law attorney. I also want to let you know that this training session is being recorded and it will be available on our website, HRTrainingClasses.com, for future reference. Before we jump into today's session, I want to take just a few minutes to share why this webinar will be incredibly beneficial, not just for your exam prep, but for your confidence, your mindset, and your success long term. If you were with us in part one, you know that we laid the foundations by exploring how neuroplasticity works and what it means for adult learners like us. The fact that your brain can still grow, adapt, and rewire itself even today, is not just a scientific fact, it's an empowering truth. And today, we're taking that concept even further. We'll start by briefly revisiting the content that we covered in part one. So whether this is your first session or a refresher, you won't be left behind. Then we'll move into something that I call neuroplasticity study framework. This is where the strategy meets science. We'll walk through guidelines for organizing your study sessions so you will stop wasting time and start studying smarter and not harder. We'll talk about how to balance learning, recalling, and reviewing because too many people focus only on input and forget the power of retrieval. And we'll look at a sample schedule so you can tailor your study plan based on your real life, your real job, your family, your energy, your time. Then we'll dig into some of my favorite power tips, tools, techniques, brain hacks that make all the difference. You'll learn how to use flashcard systems, pitch back methods, and visualization techniques to activate different parts of your brain. We'll also discuss how to study when you are tired, distracted, or just plain overwhelmed. Because let's be honest, that is real life. And most importantly, we'll talk about rewiring your confidence. So instead of saying, oh, I hope I pass, you start saying, I can pass this exam, and you believe it. Finally, we'll wrap up with a section many of you have asked for, questions and rationals. We'll look at how to break down practice questions, uncover what they're really asking, and use the wrong answers to reinforce the right thinking. So whether you're just starting your journey or you have been preparing for a while, this session will help you take control of your learning process in a way that's backed by science and built for results. Because passing is not just about content, it's about mindset, habits, and having a strategy. And that's exactly what we are diving into today. Before we get started, let's take a moment to summarize what we covered last month on section 1. Neuroplasticity is your brain's incredible ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, not just in childhood, but throughout your entire life. That means it's never too late to learn something new or improve your performance. The good news, your brain can adapt even as an adult with consistent intentional effort, studying smarter and not harder, and applying what you learn, you can actually rewire your brain. So one of the most important takeaways, active learning beats passive learning. Reading and rereading notes may feel productive, but it doesn't stick nearly as well as quizzing yourself, teaching someone else, or applying the material in a new way. Repetition is key. When you revisit material multiple times, it builds familiarity. But it's the retrieval, the act of pulling that information from memory that truly locks it in. And here's a powerful mindset shift. Mistakes are not failure. Every time you get something wrong and correct it, you are literally strengthening the neural pathways involved in learning. Ultimately, confidence grows when you understand how your brain works. It's just like training a muscle. The more intentional, strategic, and consistent you're training, the stronger and sharper your brain becomes, especially when preparing for challenging HR exams. So ready to train your brain like a pro? In this next section, we're diving into the neuroplasticity learning framework, your secret weapon for turning study sessions into real brain gains. So what is neuroplasticity learning framework? When we say framework, we're talking about the big picture structure, the overall system that guides how you approach learning. It's not about a specific tool or time slot yet. It's about having a foundation that helps you study smarter. Again, not harder. This framework is built entirely on how the brain actually works, how it rewires, how it forms new connections and strengthens memory through effort and repetition. The process is called neuroplasticity. And the good news is your brain is capable of this at any age. The goal of this framework is to help you understand what your brain really needs to retain information, not just seeing the material once, not just highlighting it. Your brain needs engagement, space, exposure, and opportunities to retrieve the information because that's how learning sticks. So this framework includes 3 components: learning something new, recalling it but without looking, and then reviewing it after a short break to reinforce what you got right and correct what you missed. These routines create lasting memory because they mirror how your brain naturally learns best. This approach focuses on activating your brain's long-term memory systems, those deeper pathways that help you remember content days, weeks, and even months later. You're not just learning for today, you're building a strong network of connections that your brain can access when it matters most, like your test day. And just to be clear, this is not a schedule. It's not your daily to-do list. This is your learning philosophy, your guiding strategy. It's the science-backed logic that will inform how you build your personalized study plan next. Neuroplasticity teaches, what does it teach us about learning? One of the most important things neuroplasticity teaches is that your brain changes through effort. It rewires when you work with something repeatedly, especially when it feels a little hard. That struggle that you feel while learning is not a sign of failure. It's a signal that your brain is literally growing new connections. Most of us grew up fearing mistakes, right? But in neuroplastic learning, mistakes are actually gold, diamonds. When you get something wrong and then you go back and correct it, your brain flags that as important. That process of recognizing an error and replacing it with the right information creates stronger memory pathways than just reading something correctly the first time. Another key principle is spaced repetition. This means reviewing material over increasing intervals, like today, and then again in 3 days, and then in a week. That pattern tells your brain, this is important, save it. A spaced review creates a stronger recall than cramming, which only stores information in short-term memory. Neuroplastic research shows that retrieval practice, trying to remember information without looking, is way more effective than just rereading your notes. Every time you pull something from memory, even if you don't get it perfect, you are reinforcing the brain's ability to access that information later. Your brain also benefits from variety. So when you combine different ways of learning, like flashcards and diagrams and voice notes or teaching someone else, you activate different regions of the brain. This strengthens multiple neural connections, making your understanding more flexible and your memory more durable. Finally, the more interactive your study process is, the more your brain remembers. Passive learning, like just reading or listening, is not enough. But when you engage with the content by writing it, speaking, applying it, your brain pays attention. Well, that's when learning becomes lasting. The first phase of the neuroplastic framework is learning new material. This is where you are introduced to a new concept, maybe through a video or a textbook or audio lessons or class explanation. The goal here is not going to be mastery yet. It's exposure. It's giving your brain a first look at what you will be working with. Next is recall without notes. This is one of the most powerful tools in neuroplastic learning. You take what you have learned and try to pull it from memory without looking. This might mean using flashcards, maybe answering quiz questions, or writing things down from memory. So even if you get it wrong, just the effort is what strengthens the connection. The third phase is reviewing. So after you have recalled as much as you can, you go back and review the material. This is where you correct mistakes, fill in the blanks, reinforce what you got right. Reviewing helps your brain lock in the information and smooth out the rough spots from your first recall attempt. A powerful way to boost retention is through layering. So that means combining multiple learning styles. So for example, you may watch a video, which we know that's visual learning, then walk through the concept out aloud, that's auditory. And then maybe we write it down, or you write it down in your own words, and that's kinesthetic. Every time that you experience the information in a new format, you are engaging different parts of your brain, which makes it stick better. One thing that surprises many learners is that struggle is good. When something is easy, your brain doesn't need to change much. But when it is hard and you keep working at it, your brain actually rewires itself. That's called productive struggle. And it's a critical part of learning. So don't avoid questions that are tough or topics that are difficult. Embrace them. And finally, let's talk about time. Your brain doesn't like cramming. It needs space intervals to process, file, and strengthen what you have learned. So instead of a 3-hour marathon session, break it into smaller chunks, like maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and come back to it later. Spacing your study sessions gives your brain the repetition it needs without burnout. So what a study plan actually is? Well, now that we have built the framework, it's time to bring it to life. Your study plan is where the rubber meets the road. It's the real-world application of everything that we just learned. If the framework is the blueprint, The study plan is the construction. It's how you apply the science of neuroplasticity to your day-to-day routine. A good study plan is not a one-size-fits-all. It's custom designed to fit your life, your energy levels, and your learning experiences and preferences. Some people have 2 hours a day to study. Others only have 30 minutes 3 times a week. The key is making the plan work for you and not against you. Your study plan translates brain science into action. It's where the research becomes reality. So instead of saying, I'll study when I can, you now say, I'll spend 20 minutes on retrieval today, 15 minutes reviewing missed questions tomorrow. So it's structured, it's intentional, it's strategic. So when you have a plan, you can track progress. You are not guessing anymore. You can see how much content you have covered, how well you are retaining it, and what areas need more work. So that kind of clarity helps you stay consistent and lower the anxiety that often comes with exam prep. And here's the last point that I want to make about study plan. They must be flexible, repeatable, and realistic. Life happens. You may miss a session. You may have a busy week. That's okay. What matters most is that your plan is something that you can come back to again and again without guilt. Consistency beats intensity. Small, smart steps lead to big results. So the key elements of a neuroplastic study plan. So let's start with your study sessions themselves. So to get the most out of your brain, you want to study in short, focus bursts. Ideally, I would say between 30 to 60 minutes. This is the sweet spot where your brain is alert, is engaged, and able to absorb information without becoming overloaded. So if you push beyond that window, especially without breaks, your retention actually drops. Next, don't do the same kind of study every day. Instead, alternate. Alternate between different types of days. Some focus maybe more on learning new content. Others maybe focus on recall and review. For example, let's say Monday. Maybe Monday may be all about new concepts. Tuesday maybe could be for flashcards or practice questions. So this variation keeps your brain engaged and helps prevent burnout. One of the best things that you can do for memory and confidence is to schedule weekly self-tests or quizzes. These they don't have to be long, just maybe 10 or 20 questions. So the key is that you are forcing your brain to retrieve information. That's what builds real memory. And each time you test yourself, you are telling your brain, this is important. Save it. Hold on to it. I'm going to need this. Don't just review what you already know. Link into a productive struggles. This means working through the hard stuff, tough questions, confusing topics, writing a concept from memory. Yes, I know that it will feel uncomfortable, but that's exactly when your brain is doing its deepest rewiring. A strong study plan also includes your neuroplastic toolbox. Think of this as your set of tools to make learning stick. Use flashcards to drill facts, explain concepts out loud to solidify understanding. Maybe color code your notes to visually organize ideas. take practice tests to simulate exam conditions, maybe draw visual maps to see the connections between the ideas. The more senses that you involve, the stronger your memory will be. And finally, this one's important. Build in rest and reflection. Neuroplasticity doesn't just happen while you are studying. It happens while you are sleeping, relaxing, or even walking. Your brain needs space to process what you have learned. So take breaks, get sleep, give yourself time to reflect on what's working and what is not. Let's begin with a 3-day plan. This is ideal for busy professionals who have limited time but want a steady, effective rhythm. So section 1, let's say that we want to learn a light quiz. So maybe we want to spend, again, maybe 60 to 90 minutes total. We want to learn new material, maybe a webinar, study guide, a video, 30 to 45 minutes. Then you want to test yourself lightly using quizzes, flashcards for another 30 to 45 minutes. Then we want to do, on session 2, we want to recall and teach back. Use another 30 to 45 minutes to actively recall what you learned. Speak it aloud as if you are teaching someone else. Optionally, write or diagram from memory because this deepens retention. Then in session 3, this is for the 3-day per week plan, mini test and review. So take a short or practice test, 20 to 30 minutes. Spend another 20 to 30 minutes reviewing the rationales. Focus not just on what was incorrect, but why was that incorrect? That's where deep learning happens. Choose any 3 non-consecutive days during your week. So this plan is designed to fit around your life. What about a 5-day moderate plan? This is going to be ideal for learners who want consistent engagement throughout the week, but without burnout. So maybe let's say this is 5 days. So let's say Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, you want to learn new content, 45 to 60 minutes. Read, watch videos, review course material. It could be optional if you want to end each session with maybe a 10-minute of flashcards or short quiz questions. That was Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. Then you want to look at maybe Tuesdays and Thursday for reinforcement and recall. So focus on memory-based activities, flashcards, self-quizzing, teach back, writing from memory. I would say 30 to 45 minutes to be plenty. Use the weekend to rest, catch up, or simulate a practice test if it's desired. Then we can also have a 7-day bootcamp plan. This is ideal for test takers approaching exam day or those who thrive with daily structure and intensity. So let's say daily format, we want to use maybe days 1 to 6. In the morning, maybe you want to learn new content, maybe 60 to 90 minutes. Again, use study guides, course modules, webinar replays. In the evening, you want to do recall and review, 45 to 60 minutes. Do active recall, quizzes, flashcards, teach back, or write summaries. And also focus on weak areas from the morning. Then on the 7th day, you want to do a full practice test day. So you want to simulate exam conditions. Well, maybe 60 to 120 questions, 140 questions. Take a practice test. or an exam simulator. Review the rationales in detail, not just right, wrong, but why. Why this was the wrong answer. This is a demanding plan, but highly effective. So if you're within 2 to 4 weeks of your exam, you want to try this one. So how to adjust your plan? So the first thing that I recommend is setting aside time, just once a week to review your plan. Ask yourself 2 simple questions. What worked and what didn't? Did you retain the material better after flashcards or after teaching it aloud? Was morning study maybe more effective than evening? So this kind of reflection turns your study routine into a dynamic, evolving process. When you do adjust your plan, adjust based on your energy and not guilt. This is a big one. If you're exhausted after work and only manage 20 minutes instead of 60, don't beat yourself up. That's not failure. That's self-awareness. Studying when you're burnt out is not productive. It's okay to shift things based on how you're really feeling. So a great way to measure progress is to track your quiz performance, especially on questions that you have seen before. So if you missed something last week and now you're getting it right, that's a neuroplastic win. Keep a simple spreadsheet or journal where you jot down which topics are improving and which still needs some reinforcement. Sometimes we hit a wall. That's normal. If you feel stuck or bored, try swapping tools. Maybe move from flashcards to voice recording. Maybe switch from reading to diagramming. Or take a break from memorizing and do some practice questions instead. So changing the method gives your brain a new way to engage. And finally, please remember this. Stay committed to the process, not perfection. Neuroplasticity is not about flawless study habits. It's about steady, repeated, consistent effort. You will miss a session. You will have a tough day. That's okay. What matters is that you keep coming back, adjusting, and trusting the process. That's what builds success. That's what passes exams. So let's take a moment to bring all of this together. So what we have done so far is move from science to strategy, and from a strategy to action. You now have a neuroplasticity-based learning framework, a clear understanding of how your brain rewires and retains information. And from that, you have started building your personalized study plan on that one. This is going to be one that is going to respect your time. It's going to respect your energy. It's going to respect your goals. You know how to structure your study session into learning, recall, and review. You have seen why spaced repetition matters and why trying to remember something is more powerful than simply reviewing it. You have learned that productive struggle, even getting questions wrong, is one of the fastest ways to lock knowledge into your brain. And maybe most importantly, you know, and now you know it and you have it. What do you have? You have permission to be imperfect, because this process is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up, adjusting when needed, and continuing forward. This is how we go from I'm not good at tests. 2, I'm training my brain to pass them. Power tips, tools, techniques, brain hacks, flashcards, teach-back method, visualization. So let's start with a few of my favorite science-backed tools to supercharge your learning. Definitely, I'm going to say, oops, where did I go? First, I'm going to start with the flashcards. So not just any flashcards. Use systems like digital space repetition platforms. The key is to quiz yourself without flipping over the answers too soon. Force your brain to retrieve it. Struggle maybe a little. That's where the rewire is going to happen. Then also an excellent tool technique, teach back. So this means explaining the concept aloud as if you were teaching someone else, like a colleague or a friend. Why is this so powerful? Because teaching forces your brain to organize information and connect the dots. If you can teach it, you truly know it. And finally, visualization. Take the content and turn it into a diagram or a chart or mind map or color-coded flow. This engages different parts of your brain and creates more paths to the same memory. Sometimes a well-drawn image will help you remember more than an entire paragraph ever could. So how to study when you are tired? You are tired, you are distracted, you are overwhelmed. This happens sometimes many times. So let's be real. There are days, right, when we're just exhausted. You work all day. Your brain is almost fried. And studying is the last thing that you want to do. So here's what I recommend. On low energy days, switch from high effort tasks to lighter brain work. So instead of taking a quiz, try reviewing previously mastered flashcards. Instead of reading new material, maybe listen to a voice memo that you recorded or review a mind map. Keep the momentum going, but without forcing it. If you are distracted, use a simple brain hack called the Pomodoro technique. So you set a timer for 25 minutes. Study with no distractions. Then take 5-minute break. One cycle of focused work, even short, trust me, can do wonders. And if you're just overwhelmed, take 2 minutes to breathe and ask yourself, what's one small win I can get today? Maybe just 10 flashcards? Just reviewing a single concept? That tiny win keeps the learning loop active. That's what matters most. Rewiring confidence. I can pass these exams. So now let's talk about something that doesn't come from flashcards or study guides, and that is confidence. Confidence is not about knowing everything. It's about trusting your process. When you apply what you have learned about neuroplasticity and you begin to see the improvement, you start rewiring, not just memory, but belief. That's when you go from I'm bad at tests to I'm learning how to pass the test, and eventually to I can pass this exam. I will pass this exam. Say it to yourself every day if it's needed. I am building a smarter brain. I am practicing the right strategies. I am ready. That's not just mindset. That's neuroplastic growth in action. Let's look at a couple of scenarios. So now you got the tools, the brain hacks, the techniques. We have built the framework. We created your personalized plan and explored the best strategies to keep learning, even on those hard, difficult days. But here's where it really starts clicking. You can study all day. You can use flashcards, even recite definitions aloud. But if you don't know how to break down actual test questions, it's easy to feel stuck when the real thing shows up. So now we're going to put everything into practice. So in this next section, we'll walk through real sample questions together. I'll show you how to analyze each one, step by step, task by task. And we're going to use the rationals to not only find the correct answer, but to train your brain to think like the exam. This is where confidence is built, not by memorizing facts, but by learning how to apply them. So let's dive into practice question scenarios and some rationals. Now, before we start answering those questions, let me walk you through how to approach scenario-based items, especially for the HRCI and the SHRM exams. So these questions are not just about what you know. They are about how you apply it under pressure. So here's the strategy that I recommend. First, start by reading the last sentence of the question first. That's right. Skip ahead. The last sentence tells you exactly what the question is asking, so you know what lens to use when reviewing the full scenario. Second, ask yourself, what area of HR is being tested? Is this about ADA, FMLA, employee relations, investigations? Identifying the HR function will help you retrieve the right rules and instincts faster. Then you want to highlight or note the key facts. Who has the employee's status? Full-time, part-time, exempt, non-exempt? What's the timeline? Has a policy deadline passed? Are we under a regulation like 12 weeks of FMLA? Are there any legal triggers like a disability disclosure or maybe a leave request? Then we want to eliminate the wrong answers. Some options will sound convincing, but legally they are incorrect. Others may be too extreme, maybe too punitive or unrealistic, or you want to get rid of those ones first. And finally, choose the best answer that is legally accurate, ethically sound. Because remember, we just don't have a legal responsibility, but we also have an ethical responsibility. So choose the best answer, legally accurate, ethically sound, and reflective of good HR practice. Sometimes more than one answer will seem okay, but only one will truly balance the law, policy, and people. Now, with that strategy in place, well, let's go ahead and try it out. So here's the first scenario. Of course, my favorite topics, FMLA and ADA compliance. An employee has been out on approved FMLA leave for 12 weeks due to surgery. On the day they are expected to return, they submit a note from their physician requesting an additional 4 weeks of leave for continued recovery. The company has a policy stating that job-protected leave ends at 12 weeks. What should the HR professional do next? Let's see the options. A, deny the request and begin the termination process due to policy violation. Grant the additional 4 weeks of leave under FMLA since the employee submitted a doctor's note. C, engage in the interactive process under the ADA to assess whether extended leave is a reasonable accommodation. And D, inform the employee that their FMLA has ended and they must return immediately or be marked as job abandoned. So this is a perfect example of where neuroplastic exam thinking comes into play. Well, we know that FMLA provides up to 12 weeks of job-protected leave, but once that time is up, the employer must shift focus and consider whether the employee qualifies for additional protection, such as maybe ADA. This is not about policy rigidity. It's about compliance. If the employee has a medical condition that qualifies as a disability, the employer must enter into the interactive process and determine whether extended leave is a reasonable accommodation. So what's wrong with answer A? It's too harsh and legally risky. Deny the request, begin the termination process due to policy violation. Too harsh and legally risky. How about B? Grant the additional 4 weeks of leave under FMLA since the employee submitted a doctor's note. Well, B is incorrect. FMLA doesn't extend beyond the 12 weeks. How about answer D? Inform the employee that their FMLA has ended and they must return immediately or be marked as job abandoned. That will expose the company to a potential ADA violation. So answer C, engage in the interactive process under the ADA to assess whether extended leave is a reasonable accommodation. That is the only option that reflects proper legal response in good HR practice. So again, how did neuroplasticity help here? Well, by actively engaging with this complex FMLA ADA scenario, we rewire our brain to think beyond black and white policies and recognize the nuance of legal compliance. This is neuroplasticity in action, building new mental pathways through analysis, through retrieval, and pattern recognition. The more we practice this kind of critical thinking, the stronger and faster those connections become. Let's look at this other scenario. An employee files a formal complaint with HR about her manager making inappropriate jokes in team meetings. 2 weeks later, she's placed on a performance improvement plan for what her manager describes as ongoing attitude issues. The employee believes the performance improvement plan is retaliation and informs HR. What should HR do next? Support the manager's performance improvement plan, since HR is not responsible for performance management decisions. Suspend the performance improvement plan until the harassment complaint investigation is completed. Advise the employee to wait until the investigation is over before addressing performance concerns. Or D, conduct a thorough, impartial investigation into both the harassment complaint and the timing of the performance improvement plan. So the correct answer is, I'm sure you're saying, D as in dog, D as in David. Conduct a thorough, impartial investigation into both the harassment complaint and the timing of the performance improvement plan. So this question is about retaliation prevention and complaint follow-up. Once an employee files a complaint, especially one involving potential harassment, they are protected from retaliatory actions under laws like Title VII. So when a disciplinary action like a PIP occurs shortly after a complaint, HR must treat it as a potential retaliation risk and investigate both issues. So what's wrong with answer A? Support the manager's PIP, since HR is not responsible for performance management decision. Definitely shows lack of due diligence. How about answer B? Suspend the PIP until the harassment complaint investigation is completed. Well, answer B may appear protective, but you cannot assume retaliation without the facts. How about answer C? Advise the employee to wait until the investigation is over before addressing performance concerns. Passive. So answer C is passive and delays the employer's legal responsibility. So answer D is correct because it ensures that HR takes immediate impartial action to investigate the complaint and to review whether the PIP was justified or if it was retaliatory. So in this case, how did neuroplasticity help here? Well, tackling this question requires to recall some key legal principles, analyze timing, evaluate intent, all cognitive skills strengthened through neuroplastic learning. So by repeatedly practicing how to connect workplace events to legal frameworks like retaliation under Title VII, we form faster, stronger neural pathways that make critical HR thinking more instinctive. All righty. Well, I do want to let you know that our next free webinar is going to be on Wednesday. You know that I like to select Wednesdays. On Wednesday, July 30th, when layoffs happen, how HR can lead with compassion, including for ourselves. Why you should attend? Well, we're going to learn how to conduct layoffs with empathy, structure, and compliance. Understand the emotional and legal risks of mishandled terminations. Discover what meaningful placement services include. Gain practical tips for HR professionals facing job loss or transition themselves. Participants will earn 1 hour recertification credit with HRCI and SHRM. Before I let you go, I also have one more announcement. And this is something that I introduced last month. This is my brand new book, my ebook called Elga's 50 Golden Nuggets to Pass the HRCI and the SHRM exam. You can find it in our website. It's available there. I also want to share with you our June's HR pros who joined our HR certified family. Cynthia Morris, Erin Edson, Amber Martin, Karen Henry, Jamila Wallace, Kimberly Hampton, Priscilla de los Rios, Cindy Tan, Dan Putaki, and you could be next. Our next bootcamp is scheduled to start on July 22nd. This is our 6 weeks evening online bootcamp that prepares you for all the HR certification, HRCI and SHRM certifications. Okay, as we have come to the conclusion of today's session, I want to leave you with this important reminder. Your brain is not fixed. It's flexible. It's trainable. It's powerful. And every time you study with purpose, recall with effort, and push through a challenge. You are not just preparing for an exam. You are literally rewiring your brain for success. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to memorize everything. You just have to keep showing up with the right tools, the right mindset, and the science to back you up. You got this, and your brains got you. Thanks for joining us today for today's webinar. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay empowered. Until then, see you next month. Thank you, thank you, thank you.